Hello everybody, welcome back to Learning Biology 14.4 Part 2. So in this part, we're going to focus on the growth of plants, but another type. This time we're focusing on the secondary growth. So earlier, we've talked about the primary growth and one very important area that's called the meristem. And below meristem, we can divide it into apical meristem, which controls the primary growth. And the other one will be the lateral meristem, controlling the secondary growth we're talking about today. And other than the lateral meristem, we also need to know another very important area that is called the vascular cambium. Okay, so try to say this, vascular cambium. Before really going down into where can we find secondary growth, we need to know more about the secondary growth first. So where does it occur? So this thing does not occur in every plant. It only occurs for most plants, and they are the woody plants. So woody plants are very easy to understand, just like they can develop wood, all right? So they're usually the larger plants, like trees and shrubs. Shrub 係草叢啦. And the other one will be like flowers, all right? So those are the herbaceous dicotyledonous plants. So they are the herbaceous dicots. All right, so as said, the vascular cambium is a lateral meristem, okay? And where can they be found? They are found between the xylem and phloem. All right, of course, you can also find it in the stems and in the roots. Okay, so this is a very common diagram we use in questions, and I believe you have seen something similar in your exam, all right, in chapter 10. All right, and now we're going to talk more about it. All right, so as just a little reminder, you can find that some are dyed red. All right, some are dyed red. The dye means D-Y-E, they're colored red. Okay, and some are dyed purple or blue. All right, and if you remember, the red one is because they have lignin. Lignin is a very hot substance, so this part is a very obvious xylem. All right, because you can see they have a very large hollow tubes. All right, but then you may ask, hey, what is this area which is also red in color? Why is it not the xylem? Okay, why? Or you may think that, okay, so it's outside the xylem, so this whole thing should be the phloem. But instead, okay, so if you remember well, this red region is called the hard-walled cells. All right. So they are the cells having hard walls. We're not going to discuss this part deeply, all right, but you can put it down first. They are the hard-walled cells. So how come they have a hard wall? The reason is, again, very simple, all right, because they are having lignin, all right, hard-wall cells with lignin, all right. Okay, so where can we find the phloem? It's actually in between these two red colored areas. So this one is the phloem, and in between the xylem and phloem, you will be able to find the vascular cambium. Okay, and then we're going to move on and talk about the secondary growth. So to talk about the secondary growth, we need to know, first of all, where the vascular cambium is. And this vascular cambium is just like the meristem. It will keep on dividing by mitosis or meiosis. Of course, mitosis, all right? And then the cells will differentiate into different types of cells, all right? So the new cells will be called secondary xylem or secondary phloem, all right? This secondary xylem and secondary phloem, they will be developed in different regions, all right? So the xylem will keep on developing inwards. All right, so they keep on like getting inner and inner and inner. And the phloem will keep on getting outwards. Okay, so therefore, just a very simple question. Where can you find the wood? When you cut a tree, will you find the wood in the outer region or the inner region? The answer, if you have looked at the second paragraph, it will be the inner region. So this whole inner region thing will be the wood. All right, we're going to talk about that soon. So this secondary growth is actually increasing the thickness, because as you can see, this one, no matter how cell develops and differentiates, this will not increase the height of the plant. Instead, it will only increase the thickness of the plants. Okay? So later, the secondary xylem, they will have more lignin. They're strengthened. Strengthened means they're getting stronger. So they're getting more lignin and they have more cellulose, and therefore they form the wood. Okay, so now let's look at this diagram. So at first, a plant will only have the primary phloem, primary xylem, and cambium, the vascular cambium. Later, this cambium will join together to form a cambium ring. Okay, so they form a ring. And after that, in the future years, they will start developing. So cells will divide and differentiate into the secondary phloem and secondary xylem respectively. And as you can see, when you cut the tree, you will see that the phloem region will be smaller, or you can say more narrow. But the xylem region will be a lot thicker. All right? So by this diagram, can you show or can you think about where is the primary phloem and where is the primary xylem? Okay, so try to think about this. And after that, we're going to talk about a more familiar topic you may have heard of. That would be the annual rings. Annual rings. So annual, that means year. 1 year, or what, if you study economics, you know biannual or by year, right? Okay, so when we talk about this annual ring, we need to know, or you may have heard that one annual ring refers to 1 year, equals to 1 year. But then there are still some differences. It's like during spring and summer, of course, if you can be more specific, talking about the temperate regions. Temperate regions means it's just normal region. All right, so temperate in Chinese is 1 dai. So of course, we are the subtropical. Okay, so we're not mentioning tropical because in tropical region, it's like throughout the whole year. So no matter spring, summer, autumn, winter, there will be a lot of water, a lot of rainfall. All right, so therefore we are focusing on talking about the temperate regions. Just that temperate regions were very clear spring and summer with more rainfall, and autumn and winter with very little rainfall. All right? Okay, so again, back here. So summer and spring will have more water, more rainfall. So plentiful of water. Therefore, the xylem cells will be larger in size. They are larger in size and they have a thinner cell wall. So if you remember, during cell differentiation, okay, so they are ready to differentiate, they have developed a thicker cell wall, right? And therefore, since they have more water, they're larger in size and they usually have a thinner cell wall. Also, they're also lighter in color. Okay? And on the other hand, when we talk about the autumn and winter, so the rainfall will be less. There will be scarcer water. Okay? This time, the opposite. The xylem will be smaller, the xylem cell will be smaller and they have a thicker cell wall and therefore they have a darker color. Okay? So as you can see here, when we talk about the trees in tropical rainforest, alright, so it is less obvious because as said, the water supply is constant. That means they're the same throughout the whole year. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the growth ring. The growth rings or the annual rings. Okay, so this part, as you can see, 1 annual rain equals to 1 year. So we can calculate, or let's say estimate, the age of the plant by counting the number alone. So as you can see, the phloem is the outermost, the xylem will be the innermost. All right? And then, where is the center, you will see a pith. I hope you still remember this word in chapter 10. And the innermost layer is actually the primary xylem. And starting from this darker pink area is the first annual ring, or you can say the first growth ring, as you can see here, and then the second, and then the third. You only calculate these parts, we'll ignore the phloem ring. By calculating the xylem ring alone, we'll be able to know the age of plants. So therefore, you can guess this one, how old is this tree? 1, 2, 3. So in total, this is a 3-year-old stem of a tree. So that's all for this part, okay? And in the next part, I will be focusing on talking about the growth of annual plants, okay? This part is actually not very difficult compared to the graph we have learned earlier, okay? So this annual plant, again, very similar meaning. Annual means a year, right? So these plants can only live for 1 year. Okay, so they carry out everything in 1 year. But then there is also this growth curve. Growth curve, that means it is a curve showing the growth of the plants. And however, we have two keywords we need to remember. This curve, we say that it is an S shape. And we say this curve a sigmoid curve. Usually we'll describe the curve and we need to know why. First of all, again, look at the y-axis. It says dry mass. And then we need to know, okay, first of all, why is it decreasing at first? So similar to the earlier part, first of all, starting from a seed, why does the dry mass decrease? Because during seed germination, the dry mass decreases. Okay, so this is a description. Reason, explain to me. So because the food stored is used up, or you can tell me it's broken down to provide energy for growth, for seed germination. Okay? And then next part will be easy. Why does it get increased? Why is it increased? And this part is because the dry mass increases. Description. So you know the first leaves will start developing and they will start making food by photosynthesis. But remember, we talked about this in the purple pages earlier. We need to mention that the rate of food production is greater or higher than the rate of food consumption. That would be the respiration. Okay? And last but not least, therefore there is a net gain, or you can tell me net lose of the net loss. Net loss or net gain of the amount of organic matter. Okay? So that's why the second part, why does the dry mass increase? And lastly, this one is a new one. Why does it decrease eventually at the end of the year? So it's like reaching the death. This is because we don't say that because the tree dies. Okay, I'll explain that in a second. So eventually, at the end, it will start decreasing because the fruits, the seeds disperses. All right. So that's all for this part. Try to get a feeling about these points when you compare it with the purple pages. All right. So that's all for this part, and I'll continue talking deeper about the details in lessons. All right. So please finish these questions, and if you have any question, ask me in class, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.